Hey, ladies and gentlemen, here we are today, coming at you live. Well, probably not live for you, with Robert Bielma, the George Harrison, as it were, of this amazing Beatles tribute band called Britain's Finest. Robert, how are you today?
Good. I'm very well. How are you?
Very, very well indeed. And where do we find you? Where do you hail from?
Uh, I hail from a small city outside of downtown LA. It's called the city of Bell. It's really
City.
tiny. We had a scandal maybe 7 years ago where the city manager took
Huh?
$1.6 million from the city. And
I hope you
and
had
the funny
more.
thing is, oh, I think he took most of the reserve. The funny thing is, my ex-wife, used to work under him when
Oh,
we first were married. So that was
wow.
pretty funny.
Wow, we're
So
gonna have to edit
uh,
all this out. No, that's good. That's good insider info. So, how long has Britain's Finest been Britain's Finest? Like, how long have you been doing this band?
well, we started the group back in 2011, and we not to disclose too much, but we used to be a band under another name,
Huh?
and unfortunately, we didn't like the way the agent ran things. He kind of ran the band as well.
Got it.
So uh, I staged a coup,
Nice.
and I said I
Tribute
told
coup.
yeah, tribute
It
coup
wasn't
of
an
all.
actual coup. It was a tribute to a coup.
It was right. It was a tribute to a coup.
Yeah.
So we had our drummer had gone away on vacation, and we got a sub, and the sub was an amazing drummer, and it just felt right. After that, the band felt tighter, the shows felt tighter. He gave us some good advice about the show on how to make the show run better. And after the show, we said, "Man, you know what? We should bring this guy into the band. This guy knows what he's doing." So we went to our booking agent and management and said, "We got to bring this guy in. Our drummer's nice. He's a nice guy, but this guy brings like this certain pocket to the group that just kind of tightens everything up."
Now this
And
reminds me of a certain band called the Beatles. Didn't they
right,
do something like this exactly?
something like that. I'm not sure. Poor Pete, I know. So unfortunately, we Pete bested our drummer. Technically, we didn't Pete best him. What we did was we Pete bested ourselves and left the group and left the drummer behind. And 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 the management built a whole new band around the drummer, and we went off with the drummer that we played with and became Britain's Finest. So that's how it
Strong.
all started.
Strong. I
So
love that
right,
story. That
there's
is
always
so
drama.
legit. Like this is truly a legit tribute when you've got all those machinations
That,
in their initial get together. Well, so how long has this incarnation been together then?
okay, well, we just got a new Paul McCartney because our Paul McCartney, who was a founding member, just after the whole COVID thing and the pandemic, he just decided that he was done putting on makeup and wearing a suit and traveling. He wanted to just stay home.
Mm.
Uh, he was talking about having kids at some point, and he wanted just to
You
move
know what's
on.
so funny? I'm sorry, I got to stop you. That's so funny. You got the real Paul McCartney who's like older, someone older. He's still out touring, and the tribute Paul McCartney says, "You know what? It's time for me to retire."
Go figure, right?
Yeah, that's
Plus,
good.
he had his own. He writes his own music and he does a bunch of stuff. And he just he always said he was lazy. He just didn't. He would rather do something where he can just sit on the couch all day. And so now he does his own private solo stuff. He just plays by himself with his guitar and a piano, and just
Sweet.
stays at home with his wife and his daughter.
That's
So
perfect. We've spent 10 minutes in this interview talking about the guys that aren't there anymore. Let's talk about the guys
right.
who are
Okay.
there. Now, run through who's in your band right now.
Okay, so Ruben Amaya, he's our
Oh,
John Lennon. He's been in the band since 2014. No, did we freeze? Okay, so he's been in the band since 2014. Jay Nixon, who's our Paul, he just joined the band 2 years ago. Right, we trained him during pandemic time. So when everything kind of started opening up, he was ready to go and hit the stage, and hit the ground running. So
beautiful.
and then our drummer we have our drummer who's the founding member. His name is Luis Renteria. But since the last year, he decided he wants to do more of the sound production and tech. So we just, as of yesterday, invited one of our rotating Ringos that we use when our drummer wasn't performing to be our permanent A guy.
Okay.
So his name is Brendan Lazar. So now he's our newest member of the band.
As of yesterday? This is hot off the press? As of yesterday.
Yeah, we made it official. We said, hey, look, you've been filling in a lot. He's always available. We were using another guy as well that we liked. His name was John. But he also has a band and he's very busy. So we thought, well, look, nothing personal. We kind of just want to get him in first, because he's available at all times.
Well, you're touching on a lot of pain points that tribute bands have, which is, rotating cast of characters, subs, people, God forbid, die, get hit by a bus. Yeah. We had to sub a guitarist in one of my bands, like less than 24 hours because our guitarist got appendicitis. And so we got one guy in there and, so it happens. It happens a lot. So suffice it to say, no matter who's in the band, who's in Britain's Finest, it's been a well-oiled machine off and on since 2011. Is that a fair statement?
That is a fair statement. The thing about us is that we don't just hire anybody. We hire the top guys in the industry if we need a sub, and we don't half-ass anything. Everybody's got to bring something to the table, and if you're not doing it right, then we're not going to hire you. So we're very exclusive on who we use. But as of now, this has been the band that's been performing together with the drummer that we've been playing, because he's been playing on and off for the last I would say about a year. So it's just now we've stopped rotating and just said, look, let's just make him our Ringo and let's do that. So that,
well, we got to keep you playing. We got to keep you playing and booked and all that stuff, right? Well, so let's talk about some Beatles stuff. So some softball questions here. What's your favorite Beatles song to play and why? Don't just say a song, say why.
Look, I'm going to be biased, of course, because of course. So I would say Here Comes the Sun and Something are my two favorite ones that I like to perform. Not just because I play George Harrison and they're great songs, but because those songs really stick out in the Beatle catalog. George, I feel, really came into his own towards the end of the Beatles' lifespan, where he just started really cranking out great songs. And once the Beatles broke up, he kind of continued just cranking out great songs. Yeah. Now a Beatles song that's something that's not in that the George Harrison character performed, but Strawberry Fields is another one. We do that one on occasion. It's not one we do all the time, but that is my favorite. When I was in high school, I used to love listening to that song over and over and over again. So I wore the tape out. So that's how much I listened.
Tape. Remember that? Yeah. Remember that, kids? Tape? Yeah.
Tape.
So
it was a reel to reel.
Oh, nice. Even better. I love reel to reel. It's the best. So how do you, like, if you could describe how you replicate the Beatles sound live? I've heard your live videos. Everything sounds just spot on, fabulous. So what steps do you take to try to replicate their sound?
Well, what we do is we rehearse 1 to 2 days a week. We try to get together. One rehearsal, it's just harmonies. And we have a music director who's been my best friend since high school. We met in a high school band together. Wow. I played the trombone. He was the trumpet player. His name is Emiliano. And after college, we both went off to college to study music. I decided not to finish because I wanted to just rock and roll. And he actually made the effort to get his degree in music. So, so now he's, since we've been friends on and off, he's kind of done his own thing. And the last 8 months, we've been bringing him in just to say, hey, look, we need an outside opinion. We think we're amazing, but we need somebody that's going to really tell us, what needs to be fixed here and there. So his addition to as part of our team has really helped. So yeah, if you see our videos, we don't do anything tracked. Everything is live. The vocals you hear are what we're singing on top because we practice the hell. We practice the vocals just as much as we practice the guitar parts and everything else.
Very
that's
nice.
that's what we try to do.
That's good. I mean, I'm always partial to bands that try to do everything live. It's, you know, part of the magic of creating the music, I think. So kudos, big kudos.
No, thank you.
So how do you do? So you're a costume tribute, right?
Yeah.
How do you like? What era do you like to costume the most?
We do the whole three costume performance. We do early Beatles, black suits in the first half of the show, and then we. Now it all depends on how a client wants their show. If we do theaters, we do a lot of theaters and performing arts centers. They like the intermission to have the patrons go and buy their drinks or whatever it is they're selling. You know, hopefully hit our merch table, pick up. We actually have 45 single vinyl single records. Like we have records of us performing the songs, our versions of them. And every year we put out one. So last year we put out Twist and Shout. And this year we're putting out I Want to Hold Your Hand. And it's singled. And we're replicating the photos as well. So
you do the vinyl?
Do it.
Is it vinyl?
Yeah, it's vinyl.
Nice.
It's a vinyl record. A record, as they call it.
Yeah.
And
yeah. Speaking of, I noticed in your at least one of the performance videos I saw, and I'm guessing you do it most of the time, is that you've got the accents and it was kind of a nice little combination of like somebody pulled out a cell phone and you guys were like, whoa, what is this device, you know, from the future, maybe. No, that's Austin Powers. But, you know, the idea was you're combining kind of the awareness that you were in the moment, but also as if you were the Beatles being aware that they were in this moment. So is that something you bring to all your performances?
Well, of course. As far as we're concerned, when we hit the stage, we are the Beatles. We try to be, you know, cheeky. The thing about the Beatles is that they were comedians. They were funny guys. And luckily for us, we're all funny guys. We joke on stage is kind of how we joke off, you know, in the real world. So all we had to do really is add our English accents. And, you know, our John's kind of, you know, a jerk. That's what John was. He was kind of, you know, kind of just the mean guy in the group. And then Paul was trying to be the sweet guy, you know, in interviews and stuff like that. So we bring that to the table. And
I don't know if I'm alone in this, but I'm not sure. Like everybody kind of knows what Paul sounds like. They sort of know what John sounds like. What did George sound like? Do us your George, the classic George.
Well, so classic George. The thing about George is that he speaks from the back of his throat, and everything sounds like he mumbles, and he barely opens his mouth. Everything sounds like that. So it's not that we can't afford call. Is that we don't have licenses usually, and everything is. And he says record, and we just put out a record last week, and record was great, selling well, you know. And there's just it was a lot of sitting there and listening to him, and just trying to get that back.
Right.
You know, we spent a week. We did Beatle Week in Liverpool. We played the Cavern. We did that whole festival thing. Mm. And the thing everybody says, you want to practice your Liverpudlian accent, is you got to walk around practicing, is it a chicken or a duck? Everything's chicken or a duck. And now you get that in the back of your throat.
Right.
There you go. That's key number one to start.
That's fun. When did you sort of pick that up? Was it just like, oh, I got to sound like this guy and I need to study it? Or was it something you'd picked up before? Is it just a oven and laugh?
Well, we just have a laugh, you know. You see, we don't really do much. We just hang around and just make fun of it. So, how I started was I was always a Beatle fan. My parents would play Beatle music when I was a newborn. My mom said that was the only music that would stop me from just crying constantly. Which this is straight from my mom. I mean, she might be lying, but. So growing up, I didn't watch Hard Day's Night. My dad had it on VHS tape.
Nice.
And I would watch it, and I just was so into the way they spoke. So I would try to mimic it. I always, for some reason, connected with George. So I always felt like I wanted to be a George one day in a real band. That I wanted to be that role where I didn't really have to say much. I just played guitar, and that was my role.
Yeah.
And then
every musician's
yeah,
on the stream right from the start. It's like, I just want to be in the back. I just want to play my bass or want to play my guitar and just have everybody leave me alone.
Exactly.
They all start out with that, and then it turns out nobody can do anything. So you got to jump up and go, well, I guess I better say something here.
Yeah, I get to say a few things. I get 3 songs per show if I'm lucky, 4 if I'm really lucky.
Nice.
So I get to say a couple things here and there, but not much, you know.
Well, so can you tell us a little bit about the process of like costuming, right? That's a big deal for you guys. Did you have to get custom tailored suits and all that? Like what, where did you turn?
Well, when I got into the business, it was about 2008. So back then there was a guy named Russ Leaks. He would sell shade jackets, black suits, Sullivan suits, and he had just a bunch of little things here and there. He'd sell like the shade jacket, Wells Fargo sheriff badges, and he just kind of sold the miscellaneous thing. So that was your go-to place. You buy a suit, you know, and it was cut. But like anything, you buy a suit, you want to get it tailored. And that's the thing about other Beatle people sometimes, that you see their suits, it looks like they just bought it off the rack and put it on. But what requires you got to wear it the way the Beatles wear it. They had tailor suits. You buy a suit, you take it straight to the tailor, and you tell the guy, I want it to look like this on my body. And that's what you do. The same thing with pepper suits. They're custom made. You can buy cheapo eBay pepper suits that look like you're wearing a muumuu. And we've done is that, not for me, I had mine custom made from the ground up. But when our John Lennon joined the band, I had him buy one of those eBay ones, and we just stripped it completely down to just the suit, had it tailored in, had everything, we bought trim, we bought everything. I spent tons of time researching through pictures and books that I had owned. You know, when you're a Beatle fan, your family just buys you Beatle books. So I got tons of them.
It's all we want.
So I would sit there, and it's all we wanted. I don't want anything else, just Beatle books and Beatle socks and Beatle T-shirts. And so I get it. You know, can you just give me a gift card, you know, next year? So
what's wrong with Amazon? Come on.
I used to work. Yeah, like give me an Amazon gift card and I'll buy what I need. So,
that's it.
So for a long time, I worked in the printing industry, and I would have to check film with one of those small eye loops. So I sat there and I researched every Beatle Sgt. Pepper costume and wrote notes on what was what and what said on what forum and all this stuff, and finally compiled all the information. And we went and had our suits made to all the specifics that I did.
Very
and
nice.
If you see our pepper suits, I mean, they are.
You know what? I don't know if I'm alone in this, but I'm not sure I know what a pepper suit is. Maybe I'm too.
Pepper suit.
I might be too old, or I might be too young. I'm not sure.
I'm probably too young. I think for sure. The Sgt. Pepper suits are the ones they wore on the album.
Sgt. Pepper suit. What am I saying?
Yeah, we call them pepper suits. So
okay.
we do a lot.
I thought it was like a Nehru jacket and a pepper suit or something like that. But yeah, of course, Sgt. Pepper. Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, in the Beatle world, everything is shorthanded. It's like, okay, we're gonna play Hand. Oh, we're gonna play 17. We're gonna play, Twist.
I get you. I'm hip now. I'm hip now to the cool lingo. Yeah, probably edit that one out. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about how you prepare for your performances, and maybe like the biggest place you guys have played, or the most memorable place you played.
The way we prepare was we drink a lot of booze and do a lot of drugs, like the Beatles did.
Well, that's comforting to all the buyers out there. Yeah.
I'm kidding. What we usually do is that we do warm-ups backstage. We run through, some vocal scales just to, get everything warmed up. We only drink, we always ask the client that we want temperature water, not cold water, because they say cold water is bad for your
For
throat.
those of you who
so
noticed that
we
he
try to
made
stay
it
away from
out
drinking.
there, he said room temperature water. Your
Yes,
signal
room
dropped.
temperature
Yeah,
water.
got it.
So we want to make sure. We try not to drink soda or anything like that, because anything that's going to gunk up your throat, you
Right.
definitely don't want to do before a show. We don't smoke or anything.
Water.
Stay away from all that stuff.
I remember I had a
We're
vocal coach
good.
tell me that the water, or like the moisture that you have in your system, was what you drank like 2 hours ago. So all the people that go slamming stuff right before they go out, it's like, yeah, you coat your throat or whatever, but it's not part of your physiognomy or whatever it's called. So I thought there's a lot of crazy theories out there with vocals.
Well, the funny thing is that my wife, my current wife now, her mom's hey, all musicians.
I'm not sure you're going to score that many
divorce,
points with saying my current wife. That's not.
Well, I mean, my future ex-wife here, her
Right.
mom,
Much better.
her mom's a vocal coach, so she always sends me like care packages and stuff. So she's I always take with us like there's throat coat tea that we do backstage. It's
yep.
the kind of throat coat. There's spray that we have, and so
creams,
so
foams,
that's what we
jellies.
do.
What's your throat coat? What if your voice is trash? What's your go-to? Like, I better have a shot of whiskey, or what is it like that you do?
Honestly, we haven't had that problem.
That's good.
Yeah, we don't.
Neither have I.
We don't. We're really good. We haven't had that problem, honestly.
That's good. That's good. Some people do. Some people don't. Yeah. No, that's good. Well, so memorable performances. So
okay.
A memorable performance, maybe, and one where you played in front of a huge audience.
I would say the biggest audience we've played to, we played a festival and there was about over 10,000 people. That was amazing. We got to play, like I said, at the Cavern Club. It wasn't a huge audience, but it was the Cavern Club, you know? And cool. We played in Liverpool. I mean, what more would you want as a Beatle tribute band that you played at the hometown,
Yeah. Standing right where they stood, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The smell of the sweatiness of the Cavern Club because it's so dark.
Oh, hence the name. Hence the name. Yeah. Have you had any mishaps, any notable mishaps during performances? And if so, how did you handle it?
So, which just happened a couple shows ago during the Thanksgiving break. Right before Thanksgiving break, we played in York, Pennsylvania, and I was about to start something, and right as I do the first bend to the first note of something, my string breaks. So it's bam, bam, pop. It just popped, and the band kind of stops. And so what we did was our John Lennon also is great at doing voice. I keep telling him he should do some voiceover work. And I think he has done a few things here and there, but we had him do George Martin. He introduces the band in the beginning of the show as George Martin as a voiceover.
Right.
So what we did was we recorded him saying, "All right, boys, take 2 on this take, blah, blah, blah." So we have that on our mixing board because we travel with our own sound guy.
Yeah.
So he'll play that. And that gives us a second to restart, and I'll get back on the mic and say, "All right, George, we're going to try that again."
That's nice. That's smooth. That's very cool.
Profesh.
Yeah,
we're very profesh.
Traveling with your own sound person, that's a big deal. So when it's 4 people in the band, obviously, and 1 extra seat on the plane, right, for your sound person. Is that your full accoutrement?
Oh, well, we do have a merch girl that flies with us too.
Very nice. She happened to be your wife, your current wife?
No, she happens to be our drummer's girlfriend. I mean, our now sound guy's girlfriend.
Sure. So, now, will she still go now that he's only the sound man?
Yeah, I mean, she's been like I said, he's been our sound guy for like the last 6, 7 months now.
I
So
get it.
she also works. She films the show. She also does our online stuff and handles like integral part of the band. So it's a good thing.
That's a
And
good thing.
my wife, she used to be the road manager. We're talking, like maybe 8, 9 years ago. She was the road manager for the Blues Travelers.
Oh, Blues Traveling.
Yeah, so they had that couple hits back in the late
Yeah,
'90s,
sure.
or
They're still doing it. Everybody who
yeah,
ever had a hit is just crushing it these days, I think.
yeah. So she was the road manager. So she helps me out. She'll come out on the road and handle all our stuff, and so
Very
she,
nice.
and then my son also comes along. So he's 2.5, and now he's a full-fledged road dog and a roadie.
Two
So
and a half, and he's what?
yeah, yeah.
Wow, tearing down drums and all that stuff.
Moving equipment. He's really good at moving stuff.
Very, very cool. Well, so maybe you could give us a little insight. Like you said, what your favorite song is. Is there any song that's kind of particularly challenging to pull off live, and how do you handle it?
Well, there's a lot of those. There's a lot of songs, especially in the later stuff where they're doing multi-track guitar stuff and orchestration. We've done some shows where we will use an orchestration track, because you can't do I Am the Walrus without an orchestration track. It'll just sound empty.
Right.
And we have done shows with a symphony, so we'll do a lot of that Magical Mystery Tour, Sgt. Pepper's
Right.
era, because now we have the ability to do it. But most of the stuff that we do, we're able to pretty much do it within 4 guys. Our John Lennon, if we do Penny Lane, which is a perfect example, I'll play the piano part and he plays all the horn parts on the keyboard.
Right.
So everything is handled right there between us 4. But they are songs like I Want You, She's So Heavy. I mean, there's a lot of background stuff, and we can do it. It'll just kind of sound a little light in certain sections of the song. Right.
So you
so we try to stick
strategically deploy tracks when they're absolutely necessary for extra orchestration.
Yeah, if we really have to, but we try to stay away from that. We try to make everything just live. So, it had to be a client that said, I really want this song. And I tell them, well, the only way to do it is that you either hire a symphony or we use tracks.
Sure.
And if they say, well, I want you to play that song, so use the tracks, then hey, we'll oblige. But
exactly. Well, cool. Well, so Robert, it's been great hanging out with you here for a little bit. Tell us, though, for this final moment of this insider view of Beatles tribute band, why should someone hire Britain's finest versus any other Beatles tribute band out there?
Well, how do you say things like that without sounding arrogant and full of yourself? But I would
That's
have
a
to
good
say,
start. That's a good start.
Right. Full disclosure, I'm going to sound arrogant, but I don't want to. We put a lot of hard work and effort in what we do. We don't like to half-ass anything. We go in there, put 100% on the stage. We look great on stage. Where unfortunately there's a lot of Beatle bands out there where the guys are seniors.
I'll say it. Yeah, I'll say it if you don't. They look like maybe older than the actual Beatles, maybe.
Yeah, and they buy costume wigs, and it looks like there's like a fur animal on top of their head. But we try to do everything at 100%. We practice the vocals. We make sure everything sounds great. We're easy to work with. We're not prima donnas. We know we're not the Beatles. We're not going to expect to be treated like the Beatles. As long as you can at least give us some water backstage, I think we're
temperature
content.
water.
Temperature water.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I think, and we like I said, we put it on 100%, and people love the Beatles. and people love our show. You know, people come back. They love it. You know, we get a lot of good responses to it. You know, so
it's definitely a great band. I loved it from the first moment I saw some live footage of Britain's Finest, and was playing it for my wife, and she said, "Oh my God, these guys are great." I'm like, sign those kids up. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to hire the very earnest and forthright Robert John Bielma and his wonderful Beatles tribute, Britain's Finest, you can go to ProTributeBands.com, submit a request, and we will make sure to deliver you the finest of Britain's Finest. Robert John, thank you so much for your time here today.
oh no, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.